The following program is a Town of Colony television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
It goes all my life's a circle, sunrise and sundown. The moon rolls through the nighttime till the daybreak comes around. And all my life's a circle, but I can't tell you why. Seasons spinning round again, the years keep rolling by.
Top of the morning or top of the evening. I'm Joe Doolittle.
And I'm Kate Detting.
And this is Story by Story.
Celebrating the human spirit.
And Kate and I, we're storytellers. And we're here to share with you a little bit about storytelling. We may talk a little bit about what's going on in the storytelling community. We'll talk about storytelling as a method in the way people interrelate. And we have a dynamically wonderful, beautiful guest storyteller.
Inside and out.
Right. Multi-dimensional storytelling beauty. And I've been practicing a lot of things, some of which were stories. Well, I'm really on a high. I'm coming down from my 50th college reunion, and I know I don't look that old. Thank you very much for thinking that.
You look even older. No,
I look even older. Yeah.
Sorry, that was.
But I went to Colgate University.
Yes.
And I was with my class of 1967, and my a cappella singing group celebrated their 75th anniversary. And I was just wonderfully engaged. And I listened to a lot of stories of people who I hadn't seen in years, and I shared some stories. And I learned the difference between history and memory. And history is collective. You can't have history shared without, a people, a state, something going on. And memory is an individual or a one-on-one kind of thing. You talk about a moment, a time, a situation, and it was very interesting. And I share that just in terms of.
Well, but would history be a collection of memories?
Could be.
That if you had a community, so the history sort of involves some sort of community, or
right. You couldn't have a history without having a collective, or and that was. I was always pondering that, and then the more I pondered it, the more philosophical it became. And now that I sit here and share with you, I'm not sure it's philosophical at all, but I thought it was interesting.
Yes.
So
yes.
That would be interesting. And what about you, love? What have you been doing?
A lot of dirty work. Not dirty work. A lot of the National Storytelling Network is getting a new website. And one of the websites that I created on behalf of them, storynews.org, which it needs to be redone. And so what storynews.org has on it is the summaries of almost 500 articles in the popular press about storytelling and the uses of storytelling. And this archive dates back to 2003. This doesn't hold all of those stories that I found. I was just trying to get a representative group of stories. But since they go back to 2003 and I had links to the original articles online, not all those links are live. So I went through almost 250 of them to see what's still there, what isn't. So when I say dirty work, it's not dirty.
Well,
it was necessary work. And
I view this work that you do on the computer and online as wizard's work, because I don't have a glimmer about how you do it. I stand in awe, and the fact that you can go out and fix this stuff, do this stuff, it's quite remarkable.
I am a certified geek and proud of it.
Now, I just want you to know that because of our long friendship, I didn't refer to you as a geek. I referred to you as a wizard.
Right.
Because I think the wizard has a little bit more panache to it.
Yes, but a geek, I mean, I have a master's degree in computer science from Union College.
So you're a
Took me-
professional wizard.
A professional, yeah.
Oh.
Well, I said certified.
Certified.
And it took me 5 years to get that master's.
Oh.
Because I was doing one course at a time, and because I was working also. And then our son arrived in the middle of that. One has parallel goals, and
I understand.
sometimes they intertwine. So I am a certified geek and proud of it. And I once knew what a pumping lemma was, but that was in the
A
pumping lemma. Yeah,
Is that like a dilemma?
I don't know what it is. It was.
Pumping
I had to know it until I took my final exam.
Oh.
You took one in the class, and then after you took all your classes, you had to have one comprehensive exam. And I knew it. That's part of the automata theory, and I don't even remember what that is. That was all theoretical. I'm more, let's do it. Let's make a website. Let's solve a problem with a computer. So anyways, so much for
I have
geek
to.
esoteric.
I have to take it back. I think you're sounding more like a geek now
Yes,
than you are
yes,
a wizard.
yes.
But I still view you as a little bit of both.
Yes. I channel my geek powers for storytelling.
There's a
Yes.
good one. There's good. Speaking about channeling powers,
Oh, good
don't you
connection.
think? Isn't that a good connection?
Yes.
Why don't you introduce our guest teller?
We are privileged to have with us today a woman from Oklahoma, and she's also lived in Colorado, but right now she lives here. We are so pleased that she moved here 12,
Years ago.
15 years ago?
17.
17 years ago, and found her way to Story Circle. Her name is Fran Combs Berger. Welcome, Fran.
Welcome, Fran.
Well, thank you, Kate. Thank you, Joe.
We're so
good to be
pleased
here.
we're so pleased that you're here. I mean, we see you around, but we really haven't had you as a guest on the show in a long, long time. And I've kind of, I guess I'm in a little bit in awe of you because you've gone back and got your degrees in Reiki and in massage therapy and other things. And that brings another dimension into the Fran Combs Berger that we know and love.
Well, I don't know if I can live up to everything y'all have said, but I do thank you.
We do like to hear you talk, so just do
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
Just do that. You all thing a little bit more, will you? Yeah.
Well, I just got back from Kansas and Oklahoma, so
So you're see,
all fresh.
all fresh.
Yes. So how did you get into Reiki? And well, tell if some people don't know what that is. So let's start there.
Reiki is a healing modality that translates as universal life energy. And it's the energy that animates us, that gives us life, gives these bodies movement, breath, thought, the ability to create, to connect to spirit. It's that very life spirit blown into each of us as we come into being. And a Reiki practitioner simply opens to it, allows it to come through, and the recipient, whether it be human or animal, pulls in what he or she most needs to the area most requiring assistance. And it helps the body to reach balance or homeostasis, which is what the AMA wants to do when they work with you and bring you back to health, is to help the body rebalance itself. And these are 3 million-year-old healers, and what this does is connect us to the energy we came from and help our bodies to absorb a strong dose of that, and then allow our bodies to place it where it's necessary to have maximum function. If that makes sense, that's my summation.
Yes, no, that was very clear. And so what drew you to becoming a practitioner?
Receiving Reiki and meeting Reiki practitioners. And I put my daughter's father through massage therapy school back in Boulder, Colorado, and I met a lot of massage therapists and Reiki practitioners and decided to become both, which I did when I came out to New York.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable. I've had a couple of Reiki treatments from my younger boy is a Reiki therapist, not actively practicing, but he's taken the courses.
It's wonderful stuff.
yeah.
And one of the best things about it is that anyone 12 years old or above can learn it. And that's because when we're very, very young, our minds don't really focus in the way that we need to learn the principles and to be able to, for the most part, that's a general statement, for the most part, to be able to focus, learn, and apply.
Right. Piaget, the French
Yes.
psychologist, they're
Developmental levels.
right. That depth perception takes a while, and all kinds of things take a while. So.
Exactly.
So, okay, but you may be wondering, was this a storytelling program we're talking about? Yes.
Well, this is an interesting topic, I have to say. But,
Right. So how does your Reiki practice and your storytelling, do they fit together? Do they complement each other?
Absolutely, because Reiki is energy work, and anyone who attends a storytelling program or who tells stories realizes that what we're doing is we're opening up and sharing energy with one another, as well as sharing information. Human spirit is always looking for something to uplift, to lighten, to connect, to excite, to heal. And each of these things, storytelling and Reiki work, does those things with and for us. When you tell a story as a teller, you shift into a different kind of headspace, if that's what you'd like to say, but
Or
also in a
heart
different,
space.
and really a heart space. And both of these types of things, both of these energies, come from the heart and connect you to your heart, to your compassion, to your passion and your compassion, and to your humanity. And it helps us get out of all of the noise of the daily life. It helps us come into who we are. It helps us come to our highest, clearest, happiest, most whole self. And that's an unbreakable connection. Yeah.
I'm feeling better.
I'm feeling better, and I just got the spirit lightly touched, you know?
Yeah, so, and I can say as a teller, you get a lot of energy from your audience when
That's
you're
right.
telling. That you see heads nodding, you see people going, and you go, they're with me.
Right.
They're with this story that I love and that I'm sharing. And I'm so happy that they're joining me in this story that occasionally I have a story I'm going, and I think, am I the only one who's going to like it? You know, and so I you know, when the first times I offer, I'm always kind of going, please, 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 please receive this.
That's an important thing you just said. Please receive this. Because a person receiving a Reiki session has to actively engage, has to be open to receiving. And they don't have to really do anything, but they must be open to it. Whether I'm doing Reiki or a massage therapy session or a craniosacral session, if the recipient isn't open to allowing that energy in, then it won't happen. It is a give and take. It is always a give and take. It is a living experience. And it's not like a practitioner stands there and goes, bzzzt. We just open. And then we have specific holds that we use, but the person takes it in. And so it's just like that give and take of storytelling, that give and take of we're sharing this together. And when we walk into a story as an audience, we step out of our everyday. And when we walk into that story as a teller, we step out of our everyday and we go on an adventure together. And that's the joy of it all.
That is a joy. It is.
And I
It's
think
gonna be-
for all of us.
Unless it's a scary ghost story. I mean, sometimes I don't do scary ghost stories myself, but I understand the joy part of it for the most part. Yeah. And just another question. You know, when I look at you, and are you Irish in your I never thought about it. You know, you see, like Anne Marie McLaughlin, she always sounds Irish, so we just kind of know she's Irish. But I'm looking at you, and you know, you've got all these wonderful Irish features.
Well, I'm English, Irish, Scots, French, German, and Cherokee.
There you go.
Definitely.
There you go.
Definitely Irish on both
Well,
sides.
if that isn't a smorgasbord, I haven't heard one.
That's called west of the Mississippi.
West of the Mississippi. West of the Mississippi.
You purebloods are out here on the East Coast. This is where people came from their countries of origin. And those of us west of the Mississippi tend to be quite the blend. And the Irish and the Scots, both very heavily intermarried with Native Americans who were clanspeople, like the Cherokee and the Creek and the Seminole. So that was a natural blend in our family system.
Wow. Wow. I never thought about that.
You have a great-grandmother or grandmother?
My father's grandmother was a 6-foot-tall Cherokee married to a 5-foot-tall Scotsman.
There you go. Sounds like
people.
Sounds like kind of eclectic geek to me. No, I'm sorry.
Very eclectic.
Okay. So do you have a story for us from your eclectic background?
That I do.
That I do. There she goes.
This is taken from Lorraine Harton Gelati's collection, Wisdom Tales, and it's called Mary McPhee and the Pooka. So there we have it. Mary McPhee was sitting and rocking in her small little hut. And you'd think that she was just about to nod off for her nap. Oh, indeed, with the orange kitty on her lap. Mary had lived in that hut all her life. She was a grown woman now, coming into middle age, and she'd had nary a big adventure in her life. She'd lived there with her parents, and out in the woods, she had gathered herbs. She had learned how to find food. She'd grown lovely gardens. She'd walked along the streams. She'd walked daytime, nighttime. She knew her whole area quite intimately, and she lived down a wee lane, down through a thicket and into a wood at the very end in her small cottage/hut. She was quite comfortable. She had a lovely fireplace. She hadn't much to eat, nor she had many possessions, but she made herself quite busy. She helped all the farm women about, Mary did. And she would tend to children, or she'd work with the sheep, or she'd do the laundry, or she'd do whatever she could to help. And then she'd be paid with maybe potatoes and bread, and maybe soup, maybe something to take home in her apron. Rarely did she see more than a penny here or a penny there, but she was happy. And she trusted that sometime, somewhere, she'd have an adventure all her own, something fantastic to take to her grave with her. She knew there was more to life than just the everyday work and the night times with her cat. And as she sat there rocking, there was a knock on the door. "Mary McPhee," said a wee voice. "Are you there, Mary?" And she threw her shawl on and answered the door and said, "Now, what is it you're needing?" And there stood a young boy, not more than 9 or 10. "Mary McPhee, my mother is needing you. My little sister and my little brother, they're sick, and there's the chores to do and the laundry, and she's in need of help. And Mary McPhee, why do you live out here so far away, so scary down the road?" "Oh, well, I'm here because I've always been here." "Mary McPhee, it's a long way back to our house from your house." "Well, let's not be worrying about that." And she gathered a bag, and she gathered her shawl at her, and she closed her door carefully, and off they went down the lane. "Mary McPhee," he said, reaching up to hold her hand, "don't you have any fear of the Pooka?" "The Pooka? Why would I be afraid of an old black horse?" "You know he's more than that, Mary McPhee. Why, you know he's got the big, blue, fiery eyes, and he stamps his big hoof, and he knocks people into the ditches. Why, he could break a leg or sprain you or make you knock your head. Nah, says Mary McPhee. He only does that to people who are afraid of him. He gets angry because they don't just come up and say hello. Mary McPhee, I'm not sure you know what you're speaking of. Now, I'll tell you right here and now, were that Pooka to come up to me, I'd say, I'd like a ride. I'd like to go riding now. Take me for a ride, Mr. Pooka. Oh, Mary, be careful what you're asking for. You never know when the Pooka could be around and listening. I've no fear. But Mary, it's dark out here. Mary, I don't like it. I've no fear. I know this whole area. I've lived here all my life. I know every bush. Don't you worry. Let's go to your house. Well, Mary arrived with him, and the day dawned, and it wasn't quite as dark as it had been, and the boy was more comfortable. And there she got so busy. She fell to putting on a big pot of soup so the family'd have something at the end of the day. She went into doing all the laundry. She helped clean up the little ones who'd been ill. And she helped that mother clean that house from top to bottom. I'm telling you, oh, 'twas a very long day. And weary they were after they tucked the wee ones in and sat down to bowls of thick mutton soup themselves. Here, Mary, have a nice hearty piece of bread. I know you've worked hard and you're tired. Me feet are a bit weary, said Mary. Well now, would you be staying the evening, Mary? It's late, and you might not be wanting to walk down that dark road all alone. Oh, I'll be right. That'll be just fine. Let me get my shawl. And she wrapped it tight about her. She said, opening the door, look out there. There's a bright full moon. I've a free light the whole way home. And she bade the mother good night and took home a couple of pennies and some potatoes. Not bad for a day. Tucked him into her apron. And she was looking up at the moon and whistling. But, oh, she bumped right into something on the road, and she bent down to look at it, and what did you think she saw straightening right up but a large black kettle full of gold coins? Oh, this is me lucky day, said Mary McPhee. You never know when you're going to get a gift like this. And she bent and she tried to lift it. Oh my goodness, she couldn't do it. So she whipped off her shawl and she wrapped it around it and she began to drag it and drag it and drag it. Wiping her brow and resting, and then she had to just stop and mop her face. And as she looked down, wait 1 minute. That's not a kettle of gold. It's a large lump of silver. Well, now look at that. That'll be easier to drag along in my shawl. I won't have to worry about spilling out the coin. What a blessed day I'm having. And so she pulled and she tugged, and it was not any lighter. And oh, she made it down the path. Oh, I've got to rest me. Oh, my goodness. And as she looked back down, wait a moment here. 'Tis not but a lump of iron. Well, now, wait 1 minute, Mary McPhee. You had no iron when you started out this morning. Iron can be sold. You can get something from that, same as anything else. Just a wee more distance to drag it. And so Mary pulled, and she pulled, and she pulled till at last she reached her own sweet doorstep. Oh, such a night it's been. And as she took her shawl off that lump of iron, 'twas naught but a stone. Well, said Mary McPhee, aren't I lucky today? Wasn't I just looking for a stone to hold me door open on a warm day? Look at me. I am blessed. Upon that stone began to wriggle and sprout 1, 2, 3, 4 legs. And it grew long and black. And before she knew it, there was a large horse in front of her with fiery blue eyes. And I'm telling you, he stood 17 hands high if he stood at all. Mary McPhee put her hand on her hip and said, I should have known it was you. Why, Mr. Puka, you finally come for a visit. Hi, Mary McPhee. I've come to ask you, would you like to take a ride? Oh, that I would. And she was swamp up on his back with her skirts hitched and switching around. She pulled her hair back and tied it, and She said, "Where are we going?" "Hold on, Mary McPhee." And off they went, leaping a league at a time. They fairly flew over the land. Mary McPhee with her hairpins popping out, and before you knew it, her hair was flying behind her in the wind. And oh, she was so thrilled. Oh, thrilled all to her very bottom of her feet. Oh, Mary McPhee. And all of a sudden, whoa, they stopped at a crossroads. Indeed, it was a crossroads. And the horse stamped once, twice, 3 times. And before Mary McPhee's eyes, there appeared a large house, lit from within with a beautiful blue light, and the sound of music coming up light and deep and beautiful from the earth itself, it seemed. And the puka said, "Mary McPhee, you're to go down and dance." "I am?" "That you are." And he lowered his head, and she slid off the top of his head. He said, "Mary McPhee, I'll be back for you in the morning." And he disappeared. And Mary McPhee walked slowly up the steps to peek into that house. And there she saw the most beautiful people with alabaster white faces and white hair and fiery blue fairy eyes, dancing in the most delicate way. And the music, why, it lifted the heart, it lifted the soul. And Mary McPhee was clapping her hands to it when a man came up in a lovely waistcoat and said, "Mary McPhee, as I bow before you, would you be me dance partner?" And Mary McPhee took the hands of this beautiful man, and he danced her and whirled her to the center of the room, and they danced and danced all the night through. Mary McPhee's feet no longer tired, but light as the very air itself. And Mary was having such a lovely time, till at last her partner bowed and said, "I bid you adieu, Mary." Before she could answer, the people began to shimmer, lighter and lighter and lighter. And there she stood at the crossroads. No house, no people. There came the puka behind her. "Mary McPhee, had ye fun?" "Oh, puka, I had the most magical night of my life." "Climb aboard, Mary McPhee. I'll take ye home." And so she threw her leg up on him, grabbed him by the mane, and away he literally all flew home. 'Twas not more than 4 leaps till they landed at her sweet cottage door. Oh, down now, Mary. And she slid down his neck. "Puka, I'm telling you, never have I had a greater adventure. Never have I had a heart more full. Never have I known more joy. I knew 'twould come the day when I too would have something to talk about." "That you do, Mary McPhee. And be sure to tell everyone, the puka is more than mischief. I can bring joy too." "Ah, that I will, me puka." And off he took, leaping once, leaping twice, till he was but a spot in the horizon. Mary McPhee pulled her shawl about her. She pushed her cottage door open, and she went and sat in her rocker. And she pulled her orange kitty to her lap and said, "Love, do I ever have a tale to share with you?" And that's Mary McPhee and the puka.
I'm enthralled, is all I can say. I apologize for the buzzer, but that was just remarkable. And I don't know that I've heard that puka story quite that way before.
Yeah, I've heard it ended with, "Isn't a stone just what I needed?" And that's where I've heard it end. As opposed to this, the puka showing up and
taking her off to the fairy dance.
Right, and
that's,
you do the most wonderful horse faces.
Those wonderful faces.
One would never guess that you grew up with horses. One would never guess that.
Well, we did all of that.
And did you ever slide off a horse down his off?
Nope, I've slid off the shoulder, but never down the neck.
Never done the neck.
Never got anyone quite that tamed.
No. No, that was just great.
That was fun.
And the way you set up the puka with the little boy, that was great too, because you had all that apprehensive and all that confidence kind of going back and forth, and she was never really frightened. She got right on. She
Yeah.
just took off.
It's much more powerful in dialogue than in narrative.
It is. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Being
Well, thank you.
analytically speaking.
Analytically. And tell me just in terms of the puka, that's a Gaelic kind of
Mischief maker.
mischief maker. It's the coyote of the Native American
Yes.
kind of thing. Yeah. Okay.
And in the play and movie Harvey,
The white, right?
he was a 6'3.5" white puka.
A rabbit.
Oh, that was a rabbit.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
And he took Elwood P. Dowd, and then the head of the sanitarium.
For quite a ride.
Yes. So
Now, if you're out there and you're wondering about this, I suppose you can Google Harvey the rabbit, because that was the name of the movie, right?
Harvey.
Harvey. Just
It's a classic movie. It's
With Jimmy Stewart.
with Jimmy Stewart, who was wing commander in the Air Force during World War II. He really fought the war. He was not just a poster boy, not at all. He led bombing raids, etc.
well,
But in this movie, you would never know that. I did meet somebody who got a briefing. Well, he and his whole squadron got a briefing from Jimmy Stewart. I said, he talked with that slow drawl, sort of not a southern drawl, but slow. No, he was down to business, and he looked really old to me. He was like 35 then.
no.
Jimmy Stewart came to my elementary school.
Oh, really?
Oh my goodness.
One of the people on the police force in Blackwell, Oklahoma, knew Jimmy Stewart and had served with him in World War II. And he came, spoke to our elementary school, and then he spoke to everyone. We all gathered at the junior high school, and he spoke to us there in his uniform, from a military viewpoint about World War II.
Whoa.
He stayed
awesome.
he stayed in the reserves and
Yes.
was I think he was a brigadier general by the time he retired, because he always had the reserves going along with whatever else he was doing.
Yeah.
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 That's kind of a cool thing.
It was real people.
Real people.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I'm going in. How did we get to Jimmy Stewart? Puka.
Puka
Jimmy
Harvey.
Stewart.
You gotta, we
See how
ought to
stories
publish
travel?
a program for this kind of program out there. But
Keep alert there. We may meander, but there is a thread, a tiny thread holding us together. Shall we go on to coming attractions?
we should.
Even though in the summer many programs are on summer break, such as First Tuesday's Tales and Stuff, the Saratoga Storytelling Open Mic, Shawnee Evenings at the Irish American Heritage Museum, the Interfaith Story Circle program. We have something that actually is still happening. And the next Story Circle meeting will be right here in Colony Town Library on Tuesday, July 18th, 6 to 8 p.m. It's for sharing stories under development or listening to people who are sharing stories under development.
And we really welcome folks who are just curious about storytelling. So we generally have 10 or 12 folks there. There's a range of stories that are going to be told. There's conversation and there's connection. So if you're interested in learning more about storytelling,
Or
please
you
join
just
us.
want to hear some stories.
Want to hear some stories?
Please.
Hear about more pukas.
Yes, yeah. You never know when they will pop up.
That's right.
But we do ask that you tell and not read. If you absolutely need an outline, well, but this is not a writer's group, this is a teller's group, and it's a totally different experience when you're looking into your audience's eyes and you see them react.
And if they're those fiery blue eyes, that's
Yes, then you know the puka is with you. And Storytelling with Janet Carter at the Inquiring Minds bookstore in Socrates is over. She has moved further south
well, that's right.
to Croton-on-Hudson area. So that will not be happening again. But for the, let me check my notes, for the just when you want to, there we go. 26th annual Not Just for Kids storytelling is happening, as always, this summer, starting on the end of July, the last Sunday in July 30th, with Janine Laverty, who was here a couple of months ago. It happens at Fort Hunter, at Schoharie Crossing in New York State Park. It's free, 6 o'clock on Sunday nights from July 30th to September 10th. Happens rain or shine. For more information, visit www.nysparks. Actually, it's New York State Parks, but I saw it. NY Sparks, nysparks.com.
And we have to say that that's one of the best kept secrets in storytelling or in entertainment in the region. It's just a wonderful lineup of storytellers, and it takes place through, they skip Labor Day, but every Sunday through that second Sunday in September. And it's just going to be a great lineup, and it's a wonderful place to do a picnic before the storytelling, and then there's generally sweets after the storytelling.
Yes. And most of the tellers are nationally known tellers from outside the area, though we do have, Elizabeth Ellis is coming, she's from Dallas. Peter Cook is a deaf storyteller, and so he signs his story, and he has a partner who tells the story based on his signing. Michael Reno Harrell is from out west somewhere. And Joe Bruchak, who's just from Greenfield Center, but he is also a nationally known storyteller. And Becky Holder was one of the founders of the Story Circle of the Capital District. She now lives out in the Finger Lakes region, but she will end the season on September 10th. So, that series is going on this summer. And then we have, I told you about things that weren't happening. Well, now I'm going to tell you about things that will be happening. Save the dates for Story Sunday, our storytelling dinner series, in its 19th season.
19th season.
19th season.
We were just children when we started that, Katie.
Yeah, 19 years, my goodness. Starting on October 1st and running through April 8th. So put those dates down on your calendar. And then we are also at Proctor's Sunday afternoons. That's Sunday nights at 5 p.m., sorry. And then we're at Proctor's Sunday afternoons at 2 p.m. for word plays. Each program has a title, and all the stories have something to do, have those little threads that I spoke of that connect to the titles, such as Awakening, Catalysts, The Unknown, Revelations, and Always. And then our telebration will be on November 12th with the topic of challenges.
Challenges.
So, and then always we like to remind you of, we have a website which is made up mostly of the stories that have been told during these programs. We have over 200 stories on demand at storycircle@proctors.org, and click on YouTube. And the last 6-8 programs are there in their entirety, but I indicate to you where the stories are starting. So if you want to listen to the whole episode, you can. If you want to just get right to the stories, you can do that too.
And we would encourage you, if you're out there and have a venue where you think a storyteller might improve the relationship you have with your customers, with your community, there's a whole gathering of storytellers, both on the YouTube collection and listed as members and storytellers. And think about having a storyteller kick off your fundraising effort, your celebration. We'd love to perform. So.
Or there are also some storytellers who are teachers of storytelling. Some have, if you're a trial lawyer, some storytellers I know have helped them learn to tell their client's story to the jury. A lot of business people are using stories as a way of focusing people on either their employees or their clients on what the problem is, what the solution is. So there are many, and healing that there are many stories that are, like, a lot of people refer to the Bible and the stories in the Bible to come up with wisdom on how to deal with their current life. But I use those, and I also use folk tales to remind me of the better way I could be behaving, for instance, or dealing with situations.
I'm not going to go there. Because I behave. No.
He's one of the, no.
You know, it's there is a lot going on in storytelling, and storytelling story is part of the method of a lot of our communications and interrelationships. So be mindful that website of ours is a real good resource for some of those issues and questions. But maybe we got to back and see if Fran's got another story. What do you think?
And you were Fran usually tells standing up and moving around. And
Right, just that one story she tells about the tornado.
Right. I don't know that you could tell that sitting down.
I don't think you could. You can't spin sitting down.
But you were still very animated in your chair, and I was glad to see that it wasn't completely stifling you physically.
Oh, no.
You were pulling and pulling. But another story.
Well, this is actually a true story. Last September, my twin and I went on a tour with the local Celtic women's group Triskele, and they always have a fall tour to Ireland, but they included Scotland this time. And we got to go to Edinburgh, and I got to cut loose from my tour group and walk down to the Royal Mile in Old Town Edinburgh, at the top of which is the marvelous current castle where the Queen of England comes every summer, at the bottom of which it reaches out to a plateau with an old castle from, I think, the 12 or 1300s, the ramparts at least. Mm-hmm. But along that way, there are beautiful old buildings made of huge chunks of stone. And one of the most interesting things about Old Town Edinburgh is that there are these very, very tall, very narrow, with an arch at top, walkways from one block to the next block. It's called a close. And they all have different names, and they might be dedicated to a general, a war, an event, a mayor, someone famous, a poet, etc. But they divide shops and they connect blocks, so there are shortcuts through the city, like little rabbit warrens almost. I would guess a woman in the large skirts that they wore back in the 17 and 1800s would have to walk sideways with her packages to get through, but nonetheless you could cut through. Such a close was right next to the National Storytelling Center, yes. The National Storytelling Center in Edinburgh, which is the only national storytelling center that exists currently in the world. And it was an amazing place. I could have spent every last penny in that bookstore. And they have a huge performance area, a little cafe, and they have dioramas of history and of stories all throughout the building. It's just fascinating. So after an hour or so in there, I came out, and next, as you came out, to your right, there was one of a myriad of kilt shops. There were kilt shops everywhere. Every other shop was a kilt shop. There are so many clans and so many different kilts, so many different patterns or tartans that they vie for each other. There maybe there could be 10 kilt shops if you count on both sides of the road in a long block. And there was a man cut out standing in a beautiful kilt, and then there was this huge close, and I looked up to see who this was dedicated to, and there was a childlike face there. And something written in Gaelic above it that said, "Heave away chots, I'm no day yet." And I looked at that going, well, I wonder what that means. When there was a touch at my elbow and I looked around, and there was a white-haired man with a long ponytail, and he had a white shirt on, and he had a kilt on, and he said, "Would you like to know what that says in the story of it?" And, well, I just came from the storytelling theory. Yes, I'd love to know. He said, "It says, heave away chats, I'm no dead yet." I said, "Wonderful, what does that mean?" Well, let me tell you the story. This close was being built, and it was coming lunchtime, and there were several men working, including a 15-year-old young man, and he was in the middle of the tunnel digging away. And most people had gone out to lunch. Him and one other man were there, when all of a sudden it caved in on them, and they was buried under the rubble. Oh my gosh. The men were called to come back, come on, and we started pulling and pulling and pulling. And there was the one man found. Now he was unconscious and he was hurt mighty bad. And we sat to rest. No, there was a sound coming. "Hello, hey, hey." And one of the lads climbed up on the rocks and leaned down. He said, "Heave away, Chots, I'm not dead yet." And that meant kept moving the stones, keep moving the stones, keep moving the stones, keep moving the stones. Pull them away, pull them away. And you know, we dug like monkeys, fair like monkeys we did. And there we found him at the bottom, and all he suffered was a broken leg. Just a broken leg after all of that at the bottom of all the rubble. I said, "That's amazing." And I turned around to take a picture of it. And it said 1780 something. And I turned around to ask the man why he was saying "we," and he wasn't there. And I looked at the storytelling center 2 doors down, and he wasn't there. And I peeked down the road, no. Up the road, no. Across the street, no. And I stopped to think. He had on the old-fashioned bloused white shirt that the men used to wear, and he had an everyday working kilt, and it looked like he had handmade leather shoes on, and you know, there wasn't another man on the street dressed like him. And I thought about it and thought about it. Maybe he said, "Heave away, Chots, I'm no dead yet." And perhaps 'twas his own story he shared with me.
Whoa. Whoa.
That was my Edinburgh adventure.
Wow. 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 You know, you sometimes stories just bubble up right in front of you, don't they? Oh.
Would you like to hear the story? Of course I would.
Oh.
So that's the story you brought back to share with us. And that's a ghost story that was rather uplifting.
Rather uplifting. Yes, I wasn't afraid at all.
Yes.
I wasn't afraid at all. I was enthralled. Great.
There was maybe
Great.
a little
Oh, for
blood,
anything.
but,
And that was just this last fall?
September 30th, the day before we flew home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that wonderful? What a gift right in front of the Storytelling Center.
Right.
yes.
Surrounded by kilts.
Surrounded by
Well, kindred spirits are,
Well, kindred spirits can be kindred spirits, that's for sure.
Kindred spirits can be spirits indeed.
Indeed. My.
I digress a bit, but I can't help but noticing you have some Celtic jewelry on
Yes.
that I thought you might have brought back with you.
Well, this I brought back. It's from County Connemara, and this is Connemara marble, which is 200 million years old. This is the green Connemara marble, and this was brought to me from Dublin, from my friend Noeline, who was the founder of Triscaeli, the women's Celtic trio here in Albany. So this is from Dublin, and this is from County Connemara.
And you're wearing, it looks like a Celtic cross.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Yes. This was given me by my dear husband.
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful.
And that spiral on your that bracelet, that symbol. Is there a spiral? Yes, there's the spiral in front of New Grange. There's a stone, at least one stone that has spiral after spiral after spiral on it.
And this is the Triskele, which is could be body, mind, and spirit, but also in Celtic lore, it's the maiden, and then the middle-aged matron, and then the crone as well, to show the experience of womanhood. But it's also body, mind, and spirit.
So you wear your stories too.
That I do.
There you go. There you go. Well, that's been great. That's been great.
Now this bracelet, I bought these beads when I was out for the Northlands Storytelling Conference in Lake Geneva,
Wisconsin.
Yes.
Oh,
exactly.
wonderful.
That I went a day early so I could do things, and I do a little bit of beading, so I beaded them
you
up.
beaded those.
And
Oh,
these
you
I
made
have
it?
you to thank for it. Not that you gave them to me. So, okay, if you're watching, there's nothing going on here. We're married, but not to each other. But when you knew I was researching Tiffany,
Right.
of the stained glass, Mr. Stained Glass Tiffany, not Mr. Jewelry Tiffany, if you will, you told me about the museum that was full of his stuff in
Winter Park, Florida. Yes.
Right, and so
So those are from Winter Park?
yes.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
based
Good
on
for
a
you.
design, because not only did he have a studio that designed stained glass windows and stained glass lamps, but he also did. I want to say interior decorating,
Yeah.
but it's like it's not pillows, and it's not just pillows and draperies. It's columns with decorations and
Stuff, yeah.
think more. Well, not Versailles exactly,
Right,
but
right.
but elaborate.
And might I say, though, that those beautiful earrings from Tiffany are quite Celtic looking.
Right, that's
And
right.
they're so beautiful. And I'm impressed that you made that bracelet yourself.
Oh,
And I'm here just wearing my old Timex watch.
what was that? What was the ad? John Cameron Swayze.
John just keeps on ticking.
Yes.
And then there were cliff divers.
Yes,
and
all that
yes,
stuff.
yes. See, we could make a story of almost about anything.
All those-
But back to Fran, and so was this your first time in Ireland and Scotland, or?
It was. And my twin sister and I had matching raincoats and matching scarves, and twice we were stopped. Once by an old man in Ireland and once by an old man in Scotland, and asked, well, now then, aren't you the sisters McCarthy from County? No, we're from the United States. And the man from Ireland said, you're quite certain? That was so funny. And then a very distinguished Scotsman was coming out of the hotel elevator in Edinburgh, and it was a dress ball that night. So all the men in their lovely kilts were about, and he asked us if we were from a nearby county as well, and we said no, and he gave us an odd look and good evening to you then.
If you're not really from around here, right?
Well, maybe he was afraid you were twin ghosts and would shimmer and disappear.
Right.
That you never know. We had a ghost in Ballygally Castle.
We had- My one experience with Ireland was with a friend who spends a lot of time in Ireland. He's from outside Boston. And if you're in a village where they know you're an American but you're with Tom, it makes a big difference, than if you're just one of the tourists that happen to be here staying for the night, So, I'd go back to Ireland at the drop of a hat. I think.
Me too.
Hat or Guinness?
I would never drop a Guinness. I would never drop a Guinness. I put the empty glass down. I would, but I would never drop the drink. No. And I'm pleased to hear the whole combination of things with your puka story and that story of being at the British Storytelling Center.
No,
That's
Scottish.
Scottish story.
And there is what it's called the International Storytelling Center in Jonesboro, Tennessee. But it's called the International. But it has looks like a 300-person theater. I would guess.
So there was something left in Jonesboro, not in Kansas City? Didn't all?
Oh, no. Well, there used to be one storytelling organization called NAPS, the National Association for the Perpetuation and Preservation of Stories. Maybe you got the P's mixed up. And then they split into a group that was interested in members, and that became the National Storytelling Network, and a group that was interested in storytelling. And that was the group, the International Storytelling Center, that built this theater and now solely runs the National Storytelling Festival in Jonesboro the first weekend in October of the year. So the membership group is in the process of moving to Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh.
That's, yeah.
So the interim, I guess the director now, he was originally interim director, but now I think he's the director. His office is there, and the women who have been running the
Membership and back house office.
Have apparently found wonderful new opportunities there. They that's their home, so they weren't going to go. But there's also a center in Kansas, a library, who's been very welcoming and gave the Story Center housing for the National Storytelling Network.
It all seems like, and you'll be going out there toward the end of July, won't you?
End of June, actually.
End of June, okay.
End of June. We're actually taping this in the beginning of June to be played in July. So I will already have done this by the time you're hearing this. And I will be telling a story. I was chosen as one of their showcase storytellers. I think they have 3 or 4 sessions that they're going to have storytellers from around the country. So I submitted a story and it was selected. And then I will also be taping a story for Sue O'Halloran's Racial Bridges? What is it called?
Racial Bridges, yeah.
Yes, that I taped one of my stories several years ago for that collection, and I'm taping another one of the ones from my new CD, Learning About Muslims.
Good.
So I gave her choice of any of those, and she picked one.
There we go.
So, Fran, do you have any storytelling projects going on in the future?
Not currently, no. I'm going to be collecting more. I made a few CDs very early on, and I have many, many, many stories to record, so I'll be busy in recording world.
So that more people can hear it. A friend of mine likes to use CD Baby, which is people can download the stories, and they can download the whole CD, they can download individual stories for pay. And he also handed out a free download card. So just mentioning, you don't have to get a physical medium. You don't have to produce the CDs. It could all be semi-virtual. Just to...
What a wonderful idea.
Yeah. So that would cut down on the production costs.
That is a wonderful idea. And so few people 30 and under are using CDs anyway.
Yeah. And cassette, what are those little
Yeah. Remember those?
Yes.
We just set an archive.
Oops.
Whoops.
We've got to go. Sorry.
Well, we'll have to talk about the archives next month.
Thank you very much, Fran Berger, for joining us. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll come back again.
Good night.
It goes all my life's a circle, sunrise and sundown. The moon rolls through the nighttime till the daybreak comes around, and all my life's a circle. I can't tell you why. Seasons spinning